Welcome, friends. My name is Joseph Schwartz, and I am Corinna Schwartz's husband, the founder of Mind Oasis. And we have a very special program that is coming up. And we are very blessed to have the extraordinary Michael Hewitt to be leading us in a yoga immersion. I've been fortunate to have been studying with Michael for about 6 years now. And in that time, we've had the opportunity to share many teachings. Um, so, Michael, what brings you to Mind Oasis and this idea of providing an immersion for people rather than a teacher's training?
Hi, Joseph. It's always a pleasure to work with you. When I was asked to start Vessel Academy back in 2009, it was from my students' request. I was teaching Dharma at the beginning of each yoga class, and they started coming up to me after and saying, "How can we learn what you're learning?" Because I was deeply underwing with some masters of yoga and Buddhism. And so I was thinking there's so many teacher trainings out there. Many people don't want to be teachers. They want to go deeper in their practice. So why not strip out all the teacher stuff and give them how to deepen as Jedi, how to deepen as individual practitioners who want to be more in the way of their love of learning and getting the fruits of the yogic path. So with Mind Oasis, particularly your guys's basic tenet of loving learning, how to be a forever student and in love with discovery. This is where our paths are so in kind.
Yeah, the idea that we're the continual student and we're continuing to grow in those teachings is really central to this human experience. When I think of the one main difference between an immersion and a teacher training is that a teacher training is teaching a person how to convey a particular skill set, whether it be the yogic skill set or movement skill set or whatever, or the Buddhist teachings. But teaching another person is a very different thing than immersing yourself into your own experience so that you can discover your own yoga.
Mm.
And I think this is a fundamental aspect of the difference between going to a yoga class and a yoga teacher sharing their yoga class, meaning their practice with you, and then you learning from that and discovering your own practice. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that means to you, Michael?
Yes. Um, the core of awakening, as far as Buddhism, like the root Bud means to awaken, and to awaken to our own magic, like what we are beyond our conceptions, beyond our cultural inculcation, to awaken to this wild, mysterious universe that we are woven into as humans, humaning. Uh, this is based on a symbol called the Dharmachakra, which is a central symbol of Buddhism. It's three elements which come together in a whole of awakening or having an epiphany. The first part of this is our own curiosity, our own need to know something. This could be, how do I play guitar? How do I make muffins? How do I drive a stick shift? A curiosity that is an active force, a need to know. That is the first principle that we are honoring here, the student's curiosity, and opening up all of our sessions for that conversation. Because you and I have so much information, too much. We want to make sure it's the right thing at the right time based on their need to know within our curriculum. Second is the passive force, which is us, the guides, listening, being responsive, holding space for the request of these curious individuals who lean into us. Based on that, we return the third part, which is the teaching, the technique, the experience, the information, so that this wheel turns. And then it's always fresh, it's always relevant. And as well, there's always repetition, because everybody needs that. When you hear something once, it's a first impression. But when you hear it 3 times, you've had a moment to go away and chew on it and come back and see, does this work? Is it effective to help remove my stress and tension, remove my dissatisfaction, and allow me to advance on the field of presence in my life?
Beautiful. One of the things that I really appreciate about the different qualities of the experience and information that we bring to our teachings into our classroom is that we come from a different background. Whereas I come from a background of, as a somatic therapist and a functional anatomy person, I come from a background that I would say is very grounded in the soma, the body. Whereas you're more schooled in the esoteric teachings. And there's an intersection there. And we've found this place where we've met in the middle. And from that common ground in the middle, we're able to move from one spectrum to the other and back and forth seamlessly. And this is very similar to this idea of flow state awareness. Whereas we have this relationship of the skills that we have and the challenges that we encounter. How is flow state awareness going to be integrated into the immersion?
Beautiful. This is my favorite subject because it's directly putting its finger on the pulse of passion, what is fun, what's people's favorite activity, what the thing they want to most be doing in their life. There's an aphorism that it came to me one night, to think that physical yoga, asana, to think that physical yoga is something like thinking that the rainbow is blue. Meaning that the physical expression of yoga, all the beautiful poses, are just one way into flow state. But it's not necessarily the way for everyone. Not everyone is naturally physically attracted to the poses and workouts, if you want to put it that way. That our yoga, what we deeply connect with and get out of our own way and flow with, like that time where you turn around and look at the clock and you thought it was 15 minutes, but it was 4 hours, and it went by like that. It just flowed. This can be done through the mind, through engaging in an intellectual pursuit. This can be done emotionally, through service, devotion, love, art. I mean, I'm principally a musician. It can be done through the animal body, through a physical practice, like riding a dirt bike, rock climbing, lifting weights, running, physical yoga. What's special about us is that we have an alloyed system for reaching flow state, not just in one way, but in all the ways. Because here's the simple truth. When someone is in their groove, right? I've got my groove on. It's a synonym for flow state. But if you do the groove over and over again, it can turn into a rut where the sweet goes out of the gum, so to speak. And you're like, well, this doesn't have the same magic that it did the first time or the 10th time. It's kind of like, what now? So in our training, we acknowledge that reality and encourage people to be a well-rounded person, meaning feed your physical experience, Know where your challenge frontier is relative to your skills. Do this emotionally. Do this electrically with your subtle body, with your nervous system. Do this with your intellect and logic, high ideas, dharma. Do this with your ability to discover, meaning to behold and open to all of the incredible information around you at all times. And so being curious and engaged in this well-rounded way every day is a satisfying day. And we find ourselves actually having fascination that's overflowing and more serendipity coming into our lives, where it's like the universe rises up to meet us because we are present.
One of the things that I like about the yoga asana aspect of practice is that it becomes a portal. And the portal is this interface between this physical matrix that we have and the context of our mindfulness, the emotional sphere that is continually to meld and affect how we're responding to the world around us, what we're observing, how we're responding to what we're observing. The idea of being curious about this physical body and capacity and developing skill so that when those challenges reveal themselves in our experience, because we go from one challenge to the next, and it's that in between that feels like it's the calm, where bliss is accessible. However, there's something about the challenges where the growth is. And so, what are some of the tools that we can utilize to find growth and bliss under the duress of the challenge?
Fantastic question. So back to the same model of the Dharmachakra. It's I'm gonna show you. I got it so I don't forget it. This Trinity, 3 parts contained within unity. It is a icon that represents nature at almost every level that I've noticed. So as we described of like the interrelationship between the student, the guide, and the teaching that turns the wheel of the Dharma, that imparts a new lesson, a new skill from one person to another. The same model works within ourselves as what's called the base, the path, and the fruit. So the base is basically getting familiar with where we are, noticing ourselves, our mind as it is, our breath as it is, our emotional state as it is, and just having an objective look at it. We call this self-observation, or to open our inner eye. It doesn't mean we've changed anything yet. We might be dissatisfied, we might be blissed. It's like this now. We just see. That's the first. The second is the path. How do I go from where I am now to where I would like to be? Meaning, if I'm dissatisfied, how do I go back to gratitude? If I'm going from dullness, how do I go to balance and a little more excitation, right? So how do I get from point A to point B? The path. On the way of doing that, like garnering a new skill, if we have this high standard of perfection or trying to get somewhere too quickly, skipping steps, comparison, competition with our guides, it makes the whole thing break down, because the bottom line with life is you can't skip steps. You can't go from point A to point Z in one fell swoop. I mean, sometimes we get lucky and it seems to happen like, wow, it was like a flow state, but we can't replicate it again. It'd be like if you could magically ride a bike and you never had before, and then you needed to ride a bike to get out of a bad situation, but had no idea how to do it again, right? That first experience is amazing, but really doesn't do much for you. when you need it. So the third aspect is called the fruit. The base, the path, the fruit. The fruit is us in our experience acknowledging when the small changes have occurred, meaning we have a little bit more space between our impulses and our reactions than we used to. We have more instances where we're able to self-liberate from dissatisfaction and suffering through gratitude, through opening our mind and seeing all of the opportunities and freedom around us all the time. These small changes inside of us definitely lead to sea changes around us with enough practice. This is where the idea of karma or habit, cause and effect, comes in, and actually managing that process through these practices that we're going to be sharing in this training. So people are more sensitive, more frequently self-empowered, taking things less personally, and as we're coming back to again and again, loving learning, because it is contagious. I dare say I'll use the word viral. It's viral. It can go, this love of learning can spread out through our relationships. People can feel it as an enthusiasm we have, a buoyancy. And to me, that is so needed now.
Yes, yes, it is needed. I think that this relationship of our experience and having mindfulness when we're engaged with our experience, no matter what the venue is so important of this process of being human and of growing and of not getting stuck in the rut that you spoke about earlier. When we talk about this process of discovering ourselves with curiosity through this experience, how does that excite you?
It, for me, excitation means my living experience is more light. I feel lighter. I sit up straighter. You can see it in my eyes. They get brighter. You can see it when someone's turned on, literally, by an idea or an experience. It lights them up. How do we put ourselves more in the way of that? So this presence that, we always have physically, this animal body is always present. And what we are aware of through our physical senses is the present moment. What happens is people's mind, their narrative, their baggage from their past, their baggage from their culture drops a net in front of that ocean of vibrational experience. And then it cordons it off and frames it and says, this is bad, this is good, this is mine, this is not mine. That all has a place because that's our orientation. But the ability to drop that net at will and become a beginner again, become like a child again, unadulterated, full of wonder, not talking about our experience, but beholding it. This is a tool that we can teach. And Joseph, it brings back the vitality to our moments. And the beautiful thing about it is it's not about being an expert. If the people watching this wanted to run an experiment right now, I would say, take a pencil or a pen that you normally write in your, say I'm left-handed. If I write in my left hand, switch it to the right hand and write your name. Now it's going to be messy, but who cares? Notice when you do that action in a different way, there's no narrative about it. It takes all of our energy to do that thing, and it's got a freshness to it. So giving ourselves permission to be kind of like toddlers, right? Before we could stand and walk, to feel okay with falling, to use that living energy of abandon to enliven everything we do, and not have this, basically adulterated caged mind that gets tighter and tighter as time goes by. There's a way out of that. And it's like right under our nose. And this is what we're imparting through this training.
One of the things I love about that is that idea of childlike wonderment and curiosity. You know, if we observe a young child for the first time learning to stand up and walk, when they fall over, there's a curiosity about what just happened, rather than so much as oh my gosh, I did something wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to get attention and cry, or whatever it might be. They haven't had that conditioned yet. And then as they get older, they'll be learning a new skill and they might fall down. And then they look to their parent for their parent's reaction so that they could gauge what kind of reaction they should have, because they're still in a place of wonderment and curiosity, but they're looking for some sort of external feedback to qualify whether or not their experience is valid. So coming back to this idea of childlike wonderment and really tuning into our experience from a non-judgmental perspective is just a lovely thing.
Yeah. And as a musician, when I'll use the word, we make a mistake on stage, the worst thing you could do is make a face or stop playing and break flow. What's common is you do that sound that was a mistake 2 more times. Again, 1 turning to 3. How do we iterate it so it's a new idea? It's a happy accident. And let it bounce off the other musicians on the stage, because it'll create something new that wasn't preconceived from all the practice, right? Where practice becomes a prison. Because that, even the Buddha said that, right? Like when you cross the river, you don't take the boat with you, man. That was the tool for that time. All the lamrims, meaning the lineage-based instructions from going from suffering to awakening. There are stages, there are steps. These are called lamrims. All of these tools are extremely useful, but later down the line, there's a point where you got to let go of it. Otherwise, it's arrested development. But if we tried to do that, just like let go and let God, without any basis, without any integrative series of steps, it's probably not going to work out. It'll probably just be like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing now. I'm spaced out, or I'm not doing anything. So being able to work with what is in a playful way, where not knowing doesn't equate to being a fool or dumb, but it's actually our threshold, it's our membrane to work with everything else around us that is an ally. And there you have the tantric side. The tantra means the depth. Tan means depth, like how deeply, how many, do you have 10,000 hours of training in a particular field, right? And then tra is the spread. Tra is how diverse are you? Or is it just one thing? And so Tantra is the spilling over, it's the overflowing or the weaving into every other aspect of our lives with presence and flow state and enjoyment and wonder and feeling like, hey, I'm alive here, I'm present here, is just everywhere. Not just on the cushion, not just on the mat, not just in whatever it is that you do best. Because again, if it's too one-sided, that's where we're asking for burnout.
So one of the things I would ask you though, Michael, is for people watching this video that might be on the fence about whether or not this particular immersion is for them or not, what do you think that some of the common things that people might experience as far as how they might grow from being immersed in this material?
Because of this tenet that we all share as the guides of the training, the leaders of the training, to respond to the curious, to respond to the inquiries, the questions within our beautiful curriculum, our diverse, beautiful curriculum, it's guaranteed to be fresh. It's guaranteed to be relevant. It's guaranteed to be something that they can apply instantly with no standard of perfection. That's one. The joy that comes from that, like we all know when we see, like they say that the mind that created the problem is not the same mind that solves the problem, or expecting different results from the same behavior is like the sign of insanity. I forget who said that. We are breaking that cycle and offering a spiral where people can get off of their disc and discover, meaning disc over, a new plane, a new plane. And sometimes that spiral is down. Like I like to say, and I think it's true, that breakdowns come before breakthroughs. It's not just about the light here. That's spiritual bypassing. Going into the underworld, looking into where the shadow is, understanding where the arrested development has come, feeling into that with tenderness, with the group, right? Our beautiful group, the hive mind, with that support, and other people also doing these practices, sharing a vocabulary, sharing regular interactions. It's a way of it's very Mary Poppins. It's the sweet making the medicine go down. And we see the beauty is I'm not like I was when I started. I'm a little different. And my mind and my being is more clean, clear to sense those differences. I'm not stuck. And that's its own reward.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Joseph. And I'm so excited to work with you. I always learn so much from you. You've empowered me to be a happier, more curious, love of life and learning. I'm a better man for knowing you, and it's a high honor to be co-facilitating this with you. Thank you.